Commander Zethkar watched the tactical display with the confidence of a predator cornering wounded prey. The hegemony's Crimson Armada stretched across 3 star systems, 12,000 vessels of pure destruction, each one a masterpiece of military engineering. Energy shields that could deflect planetary bombardments, quantum torpedoes that could crack moons, antimatter cannons that turned space itself into a weapon. For 800 cycles, no force in the galaxy had stood against them. The Velthari had surrendered after losing their homeworld in 6 hours. The crystalline Nexari had simply vanished from known space, rather than face annihilation. Even the proud warrior clans of Koroth had bent the knee after witnessing a single demonstration of hegemony firepower. Now, only one species remained defiant: the humans. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, mandibles clicking nervously, "the human fleet has arrived at the designated coordinates." Zethkar's 4 eyes focused on the display. What he saw made him pause. The human fleet consisted of perhaps 300 ships, primitive chemical propulsion vessels that looked like they'd been cobbled together from scrap metal and desperate hope. Their largest dreadnought was smaller than his escort frigates. "This is their entire military force?" he asked, incredulous. "According to intelligence, yes, sir. They call it the Terra Defense Coalition, a mixture of military vessels and civilian craft." Zethkar zoomed in on individual ships, mining barges, cargo haulers, what appeared to be a luxury cruise liner bristling with hastily welded weapon mounts. Even stranger, many ships showed obvious signs of battle damage that had been repaired with whatever materials were available. Hull patches of different metals, mismatched weapon systems, jury-rigged shield generators. "They're mocking us," growled his weapons officer, sending their refuse to face the Crimson Armada. But something nagged at Zethkar. He'd studied the human conflicts, their internal wars that seemed to rage constantly across their single system. Humans didn't mock superior force with suicide charges. They were pragmatists, survivors. They adapted. "Open a channel," he commanded. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a human female in a worn military uniform. Her dark skin bore scars, and her eyes held the hardness of someone who'd seen too much death. She appeared to be on the bridge of a ship that looked like it had been through several wars. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of the TDF Indomitable," she said without preamble. "I assume you're here to demand our surrender." "I am Supreme Commander Zethkar of the Crimson Armada," he replied formally. "Your species has been designated for subjugation under hegemony authority. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift." Chen's lips curved in what humans called a smile, but there was no humor in it. "Counteroffer. Go home. This is your only warning." Warning? From 300 scrap heaps facing 12,000 warships? Zethkar's species didn't have the same facial expressions as humans, but his tone conveyed his amusement. "You face the most powerful military force in galactic history with museum pieces and civilian vessels. What possible threat could you pose?" "You've studied our wars, haven't you?" Chen asked casually. "All those little conflicts you watched from a distance while deciding we weren't worth bothering with? Primitive chemical warfare, nuclear weapons, nothing that could penetrate our shields." "You missed the important part," Chen said. "We never stopped fighting each other because we never figured out how to win quickly. Every weapon we developed, we also developed a counter for. Every tactic we perfected, we learned to defeat. You know what we got really good at over the centuries?" Before Zethkar could respond, his sensor officer's alarm cut through the bridge. "Sir, energy signatures from the human fleet. They're powering up weapons systems I don't recognize." On the tactical display, the human ships began to move, but not in any formation Zethkar had seen before. They spread out like a virus, each vessel taking in seemingly random vector at different speeds. Some accelerated hard, others coasted. Some angled toward the Armada, others appeared to be retreating. "Chaos," Chen's voice continued from the comm. "We got really good at controlled chaos." The first human ship to reach weapons range was a converted mining vessel. Zethkar watched in bewilderment as it launched what appeared to be standard kinetic projectiles, chunks of metal that his shields would deflect effortlessly. Except they weren't deflected. They punched through his forward destroyer's shields like they were paper. "Impossible," his shield technician reported. "The projectiles are somehow phasing through our defense grid." "Adaptive frequency modulation," Chen explained conversationally. "We've been studying your shield harmonics for months. Every pirate ship you destroyed, every patrol you sent out, every time you flexed your muscles, we were watching, learning, adapting." More human ships reached range, and the space around the Armada filled with projectiles that shouldn't have worked. Kinetic rounds that shifted frequency mid-flight. Missiles that looked primitive but carried payloads designed specifically to overload hegemony power cores. Weapons that were individually weak but collectively devastating. But it was the tactics that truly unnerved Zethkar. The humans weren't fighting like a fleet, they were fighting like a pack of predators. They coordinated without apparent communication, adapted to losses instantly, and seemed to anticipate his responses before he made them. "You spent 800 years perfecting the art of overwhelming force," Chen continued as Zethkar watched. 3 of his heavy cruisers succumbed to what appeared to be modified industrial equipment. "You got so good at winning quickly that you forgot how to fight dirty, how to improvise, how to turn weakness into strength. All ships focus fire on the human command vessel," Zethkar ordered. "Which one?" his tactical officer asked desperately. "They're not using standard command protocols. Every ship seems to be operating independently." Chen's smile widened. "You brought a sword to a knife fight, Commander. Swords are impressive, beautiful, intimidating, but in close quarters when things get messy." She paused as another hegemony vessel exploded. "Sometimes a handful of kitchen knives wielded by people who know how to use them will carve you up before you can swing that pretty blade." Zethkar stared at his tactical display in growing horror. The Crimson Armada was dying, not to superior firepower or advanced technology, but to 300 ships held together with determination and scrap metal, crewed by a species that had spent millennia learning to fight against impossible odds. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No," Chen replied, her image flickering as her ship took fire. "This is human." The last thing Zethkar saw was a converted garbage scow ramming his flagship, its hull packed with explosives that his sensors somehow hadn't detected. As the bridge erupted around him, he finally understood what the humans had brought to this fight. Not knives. Experience. The Crimson Armada had been invincible against every enemy they'd ever faced. But they'd never faced an enemy that had been fighting itself for 1,000 years.